Hello and welcome to this episode of Tech Terrain. I'm Tony Ndoro. Now, in previous episodes, we looked at the importance of soil analysis. This time around, we delve deeper and discuss lime, fertilizers, and variable application. Our guests include Nadia Nichols from Lime Crop, Tianta Blanche from Sion Agri, Louis Stradum from Omnia, Dr. Johnny van der Merwe from AMT, and Stian Klutter from AgTech Africa. We also paid a visit to farmer JP Meintjes from Viljoenskroon. We kick off this episode with a discussion on soil analysis and the application of lime. With me in studio is Tianta Blanche and Nadia Nichols. Nadia and Tian, are you well?
Yes, very well.
Thank you, Tony.
Fantastic. Good to have you on Tech Terrain, by the way, and I'll chat to you in just a moment. But we'll start off here. Tian recently visited JP Meintjes, who's a farmer. Let's hear what he had to say.
I think when it comes to liming, there are two important factors that we recommend lime for. First of all, it's the soil pH. So anything below 4.5 is considered as an acid soil, which can then influence the crop and the productivity. So once you've limed up to 4.5, theoretically there is no soil pH that can harm crop. And then the second one is for the nutrient availability for in terms of phosphorus, potassium, and even nitrogen and all other micronutrients that's in the soil. It influences the uptake and the availability of that soil once you go up to 5 and 5.5 pH. So we don't only lime only for soil pH, we also lime to get the availability of the nutrients optimal. The end goal of doing lime applications is definitely to get the optimal uptake of nutrients into the crop. When you apply your fertilizer and your pHs aren't on the correct levels, you will lose some of that efficiency in terms of what you applied, and that will come back to the bottom line again. The process of doing prescription maps has really changed over time. A couple of years ago, we all ran around with manufacturer-specific software, and it was exclusive to some of the manufacturers and software, and that really was a challenge for farmers to get that on the farm and working. So these days we use generic format, which is a shapefile, so the manufacturers and software developers really listen to the on-farm issues. And that's why it's much easier to get a generic file onto a spreader and be more efficient on that.
Well, lots of valuable information coming out of that one. Let me turn to my guests now. And Nadia, if I may start with you, please. Tell us about the available sources of lime in South Africa.
Tony, yes, there's different sources available in South Africa. There's calcitic and dolomitic lime, as well as gypsum sources are available for the farmers to choose from.
All right, now Tian, tell me, how will a farmer know exactly what to use?
Tony, we look at the soil analysis, and we look around the calcium and the magnesium content in the soil to determine whether they're going to apply the calcitic or the dolomitic lime.
I suppose it's also important exactly how much they use, isn't it?
Yes, of course. So there we look at the levels of the pH, we look at acid saturation, we look at the exchangeable acidity, and then also at we look at the calcium and magnesium levels, and also the ratio within that soil sample.
Okay, Tian, so what I'm hearing is you help the farmer analyze and also analyze the soil and also assist them in determining how much they actually need. From that point, they then come back to you, Nadia, and what's the next step?
From there on, we will determine, from the agronomist side, they will tell us how much the farmer needs. what type of product that he requires, and then we'll give him options. We'll look at the different sources that are available to him, and then we look at the costs, which would be the best quality product at the best price delivered for him. So we look at the product price, the quality, and the transport for the farmer.
So what if I'm a farmer and 200-300 kilometers away from the source?
It all depends on, it's not just how far away they are. We've got sources throughout South Africa, so we can determine what will be the best product for him. A source that might be a little bit further might be a bit more expensive, but it's got better quality, so you'll get better results at the end of the day.
Tiaan, in that particular instance, what would you advise a farmer?
I would definitely look at all the options from different sources, and then usually we give a farmer two to three options to tell him, at the end of the day, we began with a quality product, and the decider would be the delivered on-farm cost.
So Tiaan, what are the risks in using lime, and potentially, obviously, there could be mistakes also involved here?
Tony, I think the typical mistakes that happens is, first of all, the rate of application is under-applying or over-applying. Then it defeats the whole purpose of correcting the soil. And other mistakes that we might come across is that where farmers use dolomitic lime instead of calcitic lime, or even rather gypsum, and applying that, because of the dolomitic or the magnesium in the dolomitic lime, it can bind up the soil, and that is exactly what we wanted to do, is the opposite thereof. So using the different or the wrong types of lime can be an issue.
Tiaan, are they looking at South Africa? Are they different parts of different regions where there's already lime in the soil, and you may not need to use that much?
Tony, it's not necessarily that there's lime in the soil. Lime is not required in different parts. When you look at more clay soils, then usually the buffer capacity of that soil is so that it doesn't acidify that quickly. And in sandier parts of the world, there you would need liming more often.
So Tiaan, at which point within the whole farming process do you start looking at applying lime?
Tony, usually we start the analysis of the soil just after harvest, and then once the result come back, then we start doing the lime application to the soil. That happens between harvest and where the soil preparation starts. And what we want to achieve with that is to get the soil in an efficient condition, so that all the fertilizer being applied afterwards would then be optimal.
Okay, fantastic. Tiaan and Nadia, thank you so much for coming on to Tech Terrain.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of fertilizer, that'll be our subject up next here on Tech Terrain. Stay with us. You're watching Tech Terrain. We continue today's discussion with a focus on fertilizers now. Louis Stradum and Dr. Johnny van der Merwe are with me in studio. Gentlemen, good to have you with us on Tech Terrain. Are you well?
Well, and yourself, Tony?
I'm fantastic, thank you. Okay, Johnny, if I may start with you. Obviously, fertilizers are a huge part of a farmer's inputs. What percentage would you say that is?
Yes, it depends, of course, on what type of crop you are busy with. Especially if we look into the grain crops, we know it's a huge part of any variable cost operation, and it depends on the areas also that you're currently producing in. But it can be anything between 15 and even up to 40% of the direct cost in your farming operation.
All right, now, Louis, what are the latest trends when it comes to fertilizers worldwide?
Production has changed a lot in the past 10 years, Tony, where in the past we talk about the primary nutrients being nitrogen, phosphorus and potash. Then we moved to the so-called secondary macronutrients being sulfur, calcium and magnesium. And then we took a huge leap and we introduced micronutrients, even into dryland row crops. The current discussions revolves around micronutrients, microbes, biostimulants, humic acids, fulvic acids. But what's very interesting at this point in time is the introduction of technology. And by technology, it's not the normal stuff that we put into farming equipment like tractors and harvesters, but it's taking satellite pictures and using artificial intelligence to actually add value to the data that we have to assist farmers in doing the right thing at the right time during the growing process of a specific crop.
I suppose with all that being said, what are the key things that should inform a farmer in terms of what to use, what type of fertilizer to use and when to use it?
Yeah. I think, as we said today, the dependency of growers to keep up with the high-yielding crops that we're having now is the use of highly technical skilled people. So what we do is we analyze the soil, we analyze the sap of plants, we analyze leaf tissue, and in accordance with the analysis, there is technical people that they recommend whichever nutrient is in a short supply, because the crop will only respond to that specific factor that is in a limited supply.
All right, now Johnny, with all that being said, so many analysis taking place and so much technology, but still there exist some risks, correct?
Yes, definitely. I think especially within this coming season that we're going into, we are expecting input costs, and input costs already went up significantly. So that will definitely put some pressure on the profitability of all the producers out there. And I think you must do smarter input cost and planning for the coming season, especially taking all these factors into account. And I think the other risk that we can identify is the risk of availability of fertilizers, especially within the next season. Not only the price risk. So the farmers must choose what's the worst risk they're going to take into account for this coming season with these prices that are really high at the moment, but also availability that's in short supply.
So availability and prices, I suppose that brings me to the next question, Louis. In terms of availability, in South Africa, we're producing a lot of fertilizer. Where do we stand when it comes to fertilizers in the context of the rest of the world?
Yeah, it's interesting, Tony. South Africa imports a very, very big percentage of the fertilizer usage. So normally fertilizer is very energy intensive. So you would find these big producers close to, relatively speaking, cheap energy sources. So the majority of fertilizer sits in the northern hemisphere. And because we don't have any primary production facilities in South Africa, we are dependent on imports of fertilizer. Now, I mean, everybody's well aware that prices of commodities like maize has increased. Therefore, there's big pressure on supply from fertilizers, and that we see in the price currently of fertilizers as well. So as Johnny said, I think producers need to carefully plan in terms of the upcoming season to be supplied and to make sure that they engage with their suppliers, that the supplier makes sure that there's a product available for them.
So what are the factors that are determining the prices of fertilizer is worldwide and particularly in South Africa?
Tony, as I mentioned, fertilizer is a supply and demand market. And because we import the majority of our fertilizers, we are exposed to the global dollar price of fertilizers. We know that maize prices across the globe has increased, and therefore we see the increase of local fertilizer prices. So what determines the price is obviously then the global price of that specific commodity. And then obviously what we've seen in the past 3 to 4 months is an increase in freight prices to get the product into country. So that's a huge impact. And then obviously exchange rate plays a big role. But what we've seen of late is also the local logistical costs to get the product from the import harbour to the producer. It's playing a bigger role as we speak, and we're all well aware that our infrastructure is not up to standard and not effective as such.
We're all concerned right now about climate change and so forth, and sustainability when it comes to soil. How much of that must the farmer consider?
Yes, I think, again, analyzing what's currently in the soil, going to your local expert, contacting the fertilizer companies and assessing what nutrients are currently in the soil available, putting that back and ensuring the long-term successful production and to ensure food security for the long term. And I think that's a crucial factor that our local farmers must ensure, especially with the unrest that we're we had the past month. So we need to ensure that we have a sustainable food supply and over the longer term. So we need to have a sustainable and natural resource base.
Food security is critical in any country, Louis, and what role should government play, and are they doing enough at the moment?
Yeah, that's a very, and the question is, Tony, what is enough? At the end of the day, as input supplier, we've got a model where we work very hard to bring back to the farmer the technology, the research and development, and make sure that the term that goes about is nutrient use efficiency. So we must make sure that whatever is spent, the farmer gets a return on his investment. And the only way that we can do that is to stay abreast with latest technology, and to make sure that we apply technology here and do research and development to make sure that we bring that information back to the farmer to optimize him.
Fantastic stuff. Johnny and Louis, thank you so much for coming through to Tech Terrain. Interesting conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron.
Fantastic stuff. You're watching Tech Terrain. Please stay with us, because coming up we'll be speaking to JP Menkes. He's actually a farmer. We'll find out exactly how this all affects his operation. Well, still under discussion today on Tech Terrain, we're speaking about soil, lime, and of course fertilizers. We'll soon hear from farmer JP Menkes on how the relevant precision agriculture practices are working for him. But let's start off with Stian Kluter. Stian, are you well? Good to see you again.
Thank you. Yes, hi Tony.
Fantastic. Good to have you with us. Stian, let's talk about, as a farmer sitting there, he needs to understand what inputs he needs to get into his soil. Where should he start? How does he get that information in the first place?
So yeah, Tony, throughout the spectrum, if you look at liming or neutralization of your soil, you have to first collect the data. There's technology available to collect the data now. If we look at advanced technology, where at 10 kilometers per hour within the field, at a 15-second interval, you can collect samples, and in real time it collects the samples and gives you analysis and plots that. So that data set can be transferred to a data repository. But then also, as we do it traditionally, and still largely the practice that's been followed, is your agronomist will do the soil sampling on a one hectare grid. And those grids and those results will be averaged, and you'll get your zone mapping on pH levels, and that you feed into your machine. So firstly, the data needs to live somewhere on a platform, whether it's a data repository or a data platform that can actually add the value to the raw data that you have collected, or you leave that for your advisor, your trusted advisor. Then lastly, it's on the hardware side and on the machine control side, where you control the hydraulic drive that actually applies the nutrient, or the lime in this case, at the correct rate, because your machine is running at a certain speed, and that speed varies throughout the field based on field condition, or just that the operator varies the foot on the pedal. So that has to adjust according to the rate that the prescription is asking and the speed that you're traveling at. So it's a PWM valve that opens and closes to get the output to what you want it to be.
Okay, so Stian, I've reached a particular point, and now I need to choose which technology I need to now bring onto my farm in order now to use all that information, all that analysis. What's the first step?
So Tony, the first step there is to understand the technology is fairly basic. That it's known technology in the market. It's not on the front edge necessarily of development. It's machine control in a sense. And the deciding factors are twofold here. Firstly, it's the support that you'd be getting. Because of the variability in weather patterns and windy conditions being very affecting lime application severely, you have to have the slots are just minimal in which you can actually apply lime. There's a larger window, larger time frame, but if it's windy, you can't necessarily apply it effectively, so your support should be in place. You have to choose that supplier or that support structure that would really take you through the season.
When you say support, are we talking about the dealership network?
That's right, yeah. Your dealership network should have the necessary skill to be good at the fault finding process, to not spend a day at finding the solution and a week later deliver a part. Have parts in stock and have that available. And then secondly, it's the integration with the rest of your ecosystem that you're working on. If we talk about something like Operations Center that John Deere offers, everything ties into that and all your data lives on that platform. So it would make sense to have the rate controller John Deere offers to feed into that and to continue that data stream of yours throughout the season until harvest time.
All right, Stian, please stay with me, but right now let's go across to JP Menkes and hear what he has to say.
The reason for me to move to precision technology is to confidently address problem areas in your field and to take out under-apply and over-apply and to more move it to an exact apply basis where we are now with the technology that's available from John Deere. For me to use the John Deere rate controller was an easy decision. Most of my products on the farm is John Deere and we are confident with the JD Link and the operations center. And the integration between the machines was also very easy. So it was an easy decision for me, and the people that backs you with the product have the know-how to service the product and to supply the product and to teach the farmer how to use the product. My support network is Senves, which I'm very happy with at the moment. I think they have a very good relationship with the farmer. The people who work for them know what they do in the field, and they also have a 24-hour call center, which is so if there's a problem that persists on the farm or on the tractor, you can call them anytime and the problem will be solved. The flow of data for me made it very easy. The agronomist sends me the data to my operations center, which from there I can allocate it to the specific tractor which will do the application. The trends I see for farmers for moving more towards technology is profitability. Farmers' profitability each year goes down, therefore our production must rise every year to keep us on the farms. And there are two ways to look at before you buy precision technology. The first way is to look at it is for how much money will this technology spare me. The other way to look at it is for how much money more will this technology help me make. I prefer to look at it the way that before I buy precision technology, I look at the second one is how much money will it bring me in at the end of the year. Then the decision for me is very easier to invest in that technology.
Right, interesting. Now, Stian, let me bring you back here. What are your thoughts on what we just saw? What do you think of JP's application of technology?
Tony, what I like about JP's application is that he goes back to the roots or to the foundation of farming, and then he uses that knowledge that was passed on through generations, and he uses technology to scale that. So whereas some farmers feel that they have to adopt technology, they have to start using technology, and out of a place of fear, you basically start to invest in technology. What JP did, and that's the right thing, he went and did the calculation and saw that this will really help me to scale my knowledge that I have in this specific zone on my farm. I can scale this to the rest of my farm with the help of and assistance of technology.
So he's basically working alongside the technology. It's not that fear of technology taking over. He's just put that aside. He's working with the technology is what you're saying here.
Absolutely. Technology will never replace the farmer.
Fantastic. Stian, thank you so much for chatting with us here on Tech Terrain. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you, Tony.
Well, thank you for joining us today on Tech Terrain. For more information or to watch previous episodes, visit www.techterrain.co.za. I hope you enjoyed this particular episode. And until next time, from me, Tony Ndoro, it's goodbye.